coming up on today's episode.
With obviously like the mortgage brokers, they can provide you more options, better rate. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes, because there is like different banks, but it's not just about the rate. Think about how much your time can cost you, right?
Dodgy advice and bad decisions can cost you big in real estate. We're here to make sure that doesn't happen. Welcome to the No BS Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jo Agresta, and it's time to take control of your property journey together.
Hi, my name is Ula, a mobile home lending specialist. I'm here to do a BS Real Estate Podcast, and I'm so excited. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. Now, today's episode is for anyone who's ever felt nervous about approaching the bank, or maybe you're tossing up whether to use a broker. Now, you don't ever know if you're going to stick with your bank, or maybe you want to explore your options. So I promise you by the end of this chat, you'll have a clearer idea of what a mobile home lending specialist actually does and how they can help you weigh up your options and why meeting with one might take the stress out of the process. Joining me today is Ula, a mobile home lending specialist with one of the big four banks. Think of her as the bridge between you and the bank. She's like a mortgage broker, but for one of the big four. And the best part is she comes to you. So whether it's over coffee or at your kitchen table, Ula works with people face to face to help them navigate their home loan journey. Now, just a quick disclaimer before we kick this episode off. Everything in this chat is general in nature and not financial advice. We're here to make things simple, clear and easy to understand. Let's get into it. Ula, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jo. Quite an intro. Thanks for having me.
Of course, because we actually met at one of the networking events, and I remember we had to do this speed networking.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so off its head, and you couldn't hear anything. It was like,
So lost my voice after that.
I think we all did, and I remember connecting with you, going, "Oh, I really want to talk to her more." And I'm like, "Okay." I got the sheet of like everyone I spoke to, and I'm like,
which is like just only 40 people.
Exactly. It's like I only met just 40 people in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was really intense. And I'm so glad we caught up, because then I got to learn about what you do as a, home lending specialist, but you're mobile, which is so different. And I think one of the things that stood out to me in particular was you work for one of the big four. And on the podcast, I've always had, independent brokers, which they're fantastic, but I've always wanted to have someone who represents, the bank side. So I'm so excited for you to be here today.
No, thank you. I'm excited as well.
Yeah, it should be a good chat. I think everyone's going to learn a lot. And we've always had a lot of requests from our listeners to hear from someone who works at the big four. So This is awesome. So I guess before we get into the nitty-gritty and how we can really help people, tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you end up as a mobile home lending specialist?
To be honest, by chance.
I love it.
It was one of those opportunities that came along and I decided to give it a go. I come from non-financial background, former marketing girly over here.
Love it. Oh, so you would love this whole setup then.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm so excited. Oh, yeah, that's it. And actually, I do believe that it helps me connect with my clients who in most cases also come from non-financial background. And look, I also know how it feels to be sitting on the other side of the table. I've purchased my first property when I was 24 back in Europe, and I've made all the classic mistakes.
You've seen it all, you've experienced it all.
Correct. I didn't have a pre-approval. I didn't have a deposit. I didn't know how much deposit I needed. What's that? Absolutely no clue. So all the classic mistakes, thank God, everything worked out in my favor, but potentially it could have been very, very expensive mistake. So I just wish I had someone who would guide me throughout the whole process.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that it's by chance and that you've had that same experience as someone else, because often, like you said, I think you put it beautifully, like, yes, you have the marketing background, but you also came from a non-financial background to become a home lending specialist. So now you're helping others kind of sift through the weeds, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's so much terminology, like you said, Absolutely. There's LMI, LVR, and when you're trying to buy a home, there's way too much to do. So it's so good to have someone who's also mobile. So that means you actually can go anywhere to meet your clients. Is that how it works?
That's right. That's exactly what I do. So I meet my customers where they are. Sometimes, as you said, might be their office or kitchen table or favorite cafe. And that's what I do. Most of the time I'm on the road.
I love that because, in this world, we're so busy now as, I think our younger generation, we're so time poor, like young professionals or with kids or just juggling life. And sometimes we have all these ambitions to want to buy a house and want to get our finance sorted. We don't have the time. And it's like, oh God, I've got to go to the bank, the office. And in your case, you're like, no, I represent them, but I'm mobile.
That's right. So pretty much I bring the bank to you.
I love that.
This is how it works, right? And as you said, like we're all so busy and caught up, doing a million things.
Oh.
So of course, like you can still go to the branch, and
Yeah.
for some that's preferred option. And obviously we have access to the same tools and systems, so the process is very similar. However, customers who enjoy working with me usually value that flexibility, right? So we can have a chat in their lunchtime, or maybe sometimes it's after 7 p.m. when they put their kids to bed, and now it's a time when they can talk about their finances. Yeah.
That's awesome, because I think part of the hard stuff, like with when you want to go with a bank or you've got a trusted bank that you work with or you bank with, is the open hours don't necessarily suit your lifestyle or the day to day. So the fact that you're still representing the brand, but you're there to assist at 7 o'clock at night, that's a huge win. And so different. I don't think that's a very common thing. Or maybe it's more common than I think, but you're the first person that I've met that is really passionate about what you're doing. So that's why I thought you'd be perfect to be here.
Thanks, Jo. Thank you.
But was there an aha moment where you said, okay, I've had enough of marketing. This is what I want to do?
Yeah, I've been doing marketing for quite a long time. So this role, what was exciting for me was the opportunity for growth and the new challenge, right? But it can be true for other roles too. But for this one in particular, I always had a passion for properties. That's why I've bought my first when I was 24. It was an investment property, and I genuinely love helping people. So this role was a combination
best of both
of these two, right? So I thought, okay, perfect. Look, I'm going to give it a go. Let's see what happens. Worst case scenario, I'll go back to marketing.
It's like you've got your fallback.
Yeah.
But then you never went back.
No, I love what I do. And what I love about it is just helping, when I think of my customers, is just helping them achieve their property goals or dreams, right? So it's not just for me, it's not just about the loans or numbers. It's not about that. It's just helping to get them where they want to be or showing them the way, right? And that's what's really, really exciting for me, just being part of such an important chapter of their lives. And I think with that mindset, every settlement feels like a shared win.
I love that. And it's because it's such a big milestone, and you've helped them get, often I think you probably work with a lot of people at the very early stages of their journey where they're not quite ready to put a deposit down. So they're coming to you at a stage where they're like, what do I do to get ready? And then you're getting people that you get to see that journey for them. And then they finally buy. That would be so satisfying.
And it's so rewarding.
It
really, really is. Yeah, yeah. And you're right, Jo. It's exactly how it is. Look, customers, they don't know what they don't know, right? Like so it's that's what I say. Start early, right? Even if that's somewhere on your vision board, sell your property. Even if it might be in the next 12 months, talk to me today, right? Let's work on a plan. Let's see where you are right now and where you want to be, and how big is that gap, and most importantly, how we can bridge that gap.
That's so important. And I think that's like part of the benefit of why you have these catch-ups early, because I think a lot of people feel a bit ashamed to divulge all their financial behaviour, and they go, okay, I'll try and fix it myself, and sometimes it becomes worse. And part of what I want to do on this podcast is get people like yourself here to explain there's no shame, there's no judgment. You're making it worse for yourself the longer you keep not knowing what you're doing. Just get set up from day one. So for those of you tuning in who are like, oh, that's me.
Don't do what I've done.
No,
talk to me early. Just give me a call.
It's like, and I always say it costs nothing to have a phone call. So just ring and see what your options are. And if it suits, you've got a plan and you've got some clarity, and you might start the new year on a completely different leaf to where you ended it. So I always say there's a benefit in it.
Absolutely. And it's so good to have time on your side. I think sometimes what happens when you're under pressure, that's when a lot of irrational decisions can happen, rush decisions, bad decisions. So it's always much better to work with the time on your side.
I couldn't have said that better, because as soon as you start looking at property, you get the agent that says, we have 100 buyers that's going to buy this house tomorrow. What are you doing? And you're like, oh God, I don't know. And you start panicking and trying to scramble for your finance. And
yeah, totally. And then it's like,
yeah, it's like, I'm panicking. And I'm sure you get a lot of those calls sometimes.
Oh yeah, sometimes after the purchase as well. Like, okay, I've bought this property. I need a loan right now. Hard, really difficult position to be in. Look, can be done. It's much better. Hopefully can be done, depending, how much did you buy it for and what's your obviously borrowing power. But much better to do it the other way around.
Yeah.
It's so stressful already, the whole process. Let's at least make that part less stressful.
Yeah, of course. Oh, good on you for still going, okay, let me see what I can do.
Well, always trying to help, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, sometimes, it's tricky, but
Yeah, of course.
always trying to help if I can, while being realistic as all it can be done at this stage.
That's right. And then, look, this is just a PSA to those of you listening. Don't buy before you know what your financial standing is, because you don't want to be disappointed or held liable for deposits being lost and
Exactly.
things like that. There's a lot of other episodes where I've spoken to real estate agents where that's happened, and you got to be prepared. So this is your reminder to get in touch. And I want to ask, like, were there any memorable stories, I guess, from like your previous clients that you've worked with in their homes, or, when you've helped them buy homes, is there someone that sticks out to you or an experience?
Look, quite a few stories, because everyone's situation is unique and different. But I think something I remember very well was at the beginning of when I started my my career. It was a couple who called me first. They got in touch and they said that their goal is to buy a property within the next 6 to 12 months. Right. Okay. We went through the whole process, how there's like documents, everything. And pretty much after calculating their borrowing power, I said, guys, you're ready.
Wow.
Wait, you're ready. And then they were like, wait, what? Like now? They're like, we were not ready for this. We thought we had more time. I'm like, look, up to you. But like, you are actually ready to buy a property right now. And it was a bit stressful because, it's a very serious decision. So they thought they had like more time to think about it. And of course, it was an option. But then I asked, how can I support you best in this situation? Okay, so we figure out your finances. What else do you need? Like, what would make you feel more comfortable? So then they were thinking of a few different suburbs. So we've done property reports and property valuations just to give them that extra confidence. Spoke about why they want to buy in those particular suburbs. It was because of the school zone for the beautiful little girl. Yeah, so pretty much after doing all of that, they felt more confident and empowered and informed. And actually, they've made a purchase within 10 days.
Oh my God.
Yes, from the pre-approval.
Wow.
It was a private offer. Great, absolutely great opportunity.
Good on them. Good on you. Like, that's
good on them. It was a big decision.
But far out, they made the decision and went all in.
Yes, and it was so good. So good. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
very good purchase. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's so rewarding because you got to deliver the good news. It came with that shock factor for them.
Exactly. That's why I say, sometimes people, they just don't know what they don't know. They might not know they're already.
I think it's sometimes like hearing those words, you're ready. It's like, no, I'm not. What do you mean? I'm not ready.
Because they're like, oh my God, now we actually have to buy. Now we have to do the work.
That's true, because it's kind of like the signal to you can start. And what's scary is the statistics, tell us that people spend on average of 6 to 9 months on markets. I think that's probably what a lot of people have in their mind when they think about buying a house is, crap, this is going to be 6 to 9 months of my life. And it's like these guys.
Saturdays, inspections,
Exactly. And then because you've given them all that extra support, like I love that you asked that question, how can I support you? You gave them some context with some property reports. I feel like sometimes that's all they need is to understand, what does this budget get you?
Exactly.
You've done all the work on the finance, so you can actually you're the best person to kind of tell them this is where you could play.
Yeah, you're right, Jo, because there's a lot of uncertainties, of course, right? And that's when the fear kicks in.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel, okay, what can we do to eliminate that fear? Usually it's more information, right? To give you that confidence. Yeah.
And I've always said, an objection to something is a need for more information, because often people aren't selling you something obviously bad, right? It's not like I'm saying, here's, come and do this scheme with me and we're going to make a bucket load of money. It's like when you don't understand something, it's like you don't have enough information to make the decision. So I really admire the fact that you took you do take that extra mile with your clients. And look, now that we've got a bit of a sense of, who you are and what your role looks like, let's zoom out a little bit, because a lot of listeners are probably still asking, how is this different from going to a broker, if that's the case?
Yeah, of course. So look, the main difference is that it's that personal approach, right? And I bring the bank to you. That's the main difference. When we speak about the difference between me and the branch, pretty much it's the working hours, right? The process and tools is the same. It's just I'm more flexible. I can do after hours. I can meet you 7 a.m. Saturday if that's the case, and just pretty much work around your schedule. And I work for obviously one bank, and yes, brokers do offer more choice, right?
Yeah.
But I sometimes say you don't need 5 approvals, pre-approvals. You just need one good one.
That's true.
That has been done right and correct in the first place, right? And yes, of course, they do have more variety of choice. They can present you with different options, and sometimes it might be better for you. It really depends what your goal is, what do you need, what do you want, and who can get you there, right?
Yeah. Makes sense. And I think you also have the direct relationship with the bank, the lender, right?
Absolutely.
Which is a huge game changer in the sense that it's not many lenders. It's one core lender that you personally probably know exactly who you're dealing with for
Exactly.
approvals. So having that working relationship, I feel, would make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Look, it's just about that personal relationship, right? So I'm just always one text message or one phone call away. During the whole process, I support you every step of the way, from initial conversation where we talk about your goals, like what do you need, what do you want, and I guide you through the whole process to pretty much for purchase and also after that, right? Your situation might change. When you sign a loan, home loan, it's usually for 30 years. That's a long time, right?
Huge.
During that time, your life circumstances can change. Maybe you'd like to buy another property, right? Maybe you started a business, or maybe you need to buy a bigger car because your family is growing. Think of me as one-stop shop, right? Do you need any credit card? Yeah, no worries. Let me help you with that one. Term deposit? Sure. Think you're opening a business? Sure. Let me connect you with my colleague who does business banking or commercial banking if your company gets bigger, right? You need a new car? Sure. Let's do a top-up loan. Of course, if that works for you. So think of all these solutions, like just assisting you on that journey. I can provide you with the solution that might work for you. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think that's part of the stress taken out of it, right?
Absolutely.
Because often, like you said, and this is like, I'm talking in general, like when you go to any brokers, they're not bad. I've had some fantastic brokers. But
Yeah,
the differences, right, is clear that when you do deal with like one broker, they're often specializing in residential property, not necessarily all parts of the transactional parts of your life that could change. So in this case, for someone like yourself, because you've got all the connections within the same business and the same company, it's very powerful to be able to pull those relationships in when you need them.
And that's what I tell my customers as well. Like, just I'm one phone call away, so you don't have to spend 2 hours on
waiting.
I'm not gonna give the number, but waiting to get connected to someone. You lost your credit card, you're overseas. Oh my God, how stressful! Just call me, I'll block it for you, right? So you don't have to worry about the fact that, oh my God, maybe someone is like, I'm stealing my money as we speak, right? So that's really powerful. You want to change your monthly payments? No worries, just give me a call. Let's do it together. Either I'll guide you how you can do it for your app, or I can do it for you. So it's just that convenience of that personalized service, almost like a personal banker,
I was going to say, I'm like, because part of like that, going through the call center is one thing. Like when you have I've been there, calling my bank and saying, oh God, I've got to wait on the phone. I don't have
2 hours,
time, 2 hours. And then I end up giving up, or I try and see is there something I can email, and then I can't, and I end up just not being bothered. Right?
Stressful, right?
It's too much, and I'm like, I don't have time. And if I knew that this was an option, like I'm so glad you're here to tell me this, because honestly, I didn't even realize that once you're connected and you've helped someone achieve like their mortgage, that you're someone who can also then support them after the transaction. It's not just about getting the home, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm with them like after the settlement as well, right? So they have my phone number. They can call me anytime. If anything changes, or, maybe they might have some other needs at that time, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they want to sell to buy another property. We can restructure. We can just help them with all the solutions. And look, some customers also, they do so well. Let's say they started that business, right? They've done so well. Maybe they can qualify for private banking right now, right?
So that's true. That's awesome, because then you've got their history, their portfolio, and then you can kind of help guide them for the rest of it. And they've got someone, like you said, if you're overseas, you've lost your credit card, something's happened, rather than having to go through the call center and the rigmarole. Oh God, how am I ever going to get through? It's like, let me just call Ula and say,
and I'll get it sorted for you, right? That's it. Yeah.
That's so convenient and
so peace of mind.
I did not realize. I think for all our listeners, they're probably switching on right now going, oh. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, what do you think the biggest misconception is that people have about dealing directly with the bank?
So I think a lot of people think it's really intimidating, right? Because like, oh my God, a big bank, and it's just easier, like maybe to catch up with a broker, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Catching up with me, it's exactly the same thing, and it doesn't have to be intimidating. It's my job to make it simple and human.
I love that. Well put. And, for a first-time buyer, what are some of the, I guess, general benefits of working with a bank's lending specialist?
Yeah, so I think for first home buyers, the journey is pretty much very emotional, isn't it?
Oh,
How did you
yes.
feel, Jo, when you purchased your first property?
Oh, it's so emotional with mine. I
Yeah.
think my first was an investment, actually, which was
Okay,
funny.
yeah.
So my stepdad and I,
Mhm.
saved. He basically told me off for bad banking habits in my 20s, late teens, early
Yeah.
20s. I made a lot of mistakes. And then I was like, okay, what do I do? And he just said to me, he goes, all right, you're going to give me half your paycheck from now on. And he said, I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to save it.
Yeah.
And he came to me about when I was 22 and he said, you're ready to buy a house. And I said, get
Amazing.
out.
She's good on him, and
Yeah.
how lucky you were in that
Oh,
situation. Yeah.
So fortunate because I was such an idiot.
Well, who wasn't at that age? I was blissfully unaware.
So when I got that first investment, I was really excited and, it was great. But then when I bought my first home with my partner, we built so emotional. And I was in the industry and I was so frustrated. That actually is why the podcast exists.
Oh, that really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I was so upset with how my purchase went because I did so much advocating for myself and defending, and I knew all the tricks of the trade. And I'm like, geez, like if I'm doing all of that, what's an everyday home buyer doing? They must be overpaying. They must be paying more than they need to. They must be making mistakes, talking to bad or dodgy professionals that they have no idea what the standard of professional is. So the podcast was born out of, let me show you what good professionals do and what they look like, and let me show you how the process actually works. So that was 5 years ago. Here we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. Exactly right, right? So when you're with the first home buyers, they're usually like unsure. There's like lots of emotions going on, uncertainty, fear, like what am I doing? All of that, right? So I feel like that's where we really come in. So first of all, you have the certainty of working with one of the biggest banks, right? That itself gives you, okay, like I know who that is, where my money's going. So that gives you that certainty. Second of all, as I said, we work with so many different departments that whatever you might need help with credit card or this, that's sorted, like we got your back. It's all good, because with a home loan, you need to make so many decisions. My God, how much deposit, type of loan, property. So, right, you already feel overwhelmed. You don't need to add more to that.
Yeah.
And also we work with the first home buyers. We offer all the government schemes as well, including the Help to Buy that's coming end of October. Yeah. So we can guide you as well for your options, so you can choose what works best for you.
That's unreal.
Not to mention the cybersecurity that the bank invests lots and lots of money, $100 million every year. Yeah. Just to keep you safe.
I think the security side is a big concern now, right? Because everyone's, so worried about their data being taken.
Exactly.
So like you said, you're backed by a big bank that invests the money, the time, and they have the money and time to make things secure. So you know exactly that when you submit any application details or your personal circumstance on finance, that it's going to be in a place that is pretty much like throw away the key, it's locked.
Exactly, right? Not to mention that, like I know exactly what's happening with your application every single step of the way.
True.
So very often with my first home buyers, I was like, oh my God, did we get approved for the government grant or this or that? There's a lot of questions and I get it, right? It's a very serious decision. With me, I look at the system, I know exactly what's happening with the application every single step of the way. And that what helps me like react quickly, right? Let's say there's something missing and, unsure. Look, I see it already, right? So I can address that with them before it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Easy.
And that makes sense because I was going to say you've got internal systems too. So it's not like you're waiting. Like I know for a typical broker, they're logged in and plugged into all these systems and they're trying to track, where's the loan at and where's the application at, and sometimes they have to call the bank. But with you, you're directly connected. So
exactly. So, even with like, sometimes we need, let's say, additional information, right? Or, to get the loan approved. So I'm just one phone call away from my credit team. Okay, what do you exactly need? What type of information? Like that's it, right? That's why also our whole process and turnaround time, it's much faster. It's all internal. There is no middleman pretty much. Yeah.
I love that. And I guess, you're meeting people face to face,
Mhm.
which we touched on earlier. And because you're in their own space, often like maybe I think, would you say majority of the time you're at someone's home or is it pretty mixed?
It's mixed. Usually it's a home or office,
Home or office,
That's
yeah.
that's the most popular choice, yeah.
Because how do you find that when they're in their own space or on their own turf, rather than the bank's office necessarily, does that help demystify finance?
Yes.
And do they kind of feel a bit more comfortable because they're in their own
Absolutely,
place?
absolutely. I've noticed that it brings certain level of comfort to them because they're at their own space and they don't have to worry about the traffic, getting there, picking up the kids, like, all of that, right? So definitely it makes them feel more comfortable. And also I think, look, face to face, it's a very important aspect of my job, right?
Yeah.
Because the way I approach it is it's all about building relationships with my customers, right? It's not about a quick deal. It's about building that long lasting relationship, right?
Yeah.
And face to face is such an important aspect of that. And also, like, one of the benefits that I've noticed is that sometimes, communication for emails, phones, how we get easily distracted, right? You write an email, you're supposed to answer some questions, let's say financial questions, an email, but then your phone is ringing, your toast is getting burnt, your dog is barking, you know what I mean, right? Someone else calls you, like, it's full on, right? So
Yeah.
much, so many things are going on. So it's really easy to get distracted. But if we have that home loan interview in person, because usually the first is in person, and then, we follow up we communicate for email or phone. That gives us that chance just to sit and focus on that. So be present in that moment and just talk about finances. And sometimes, what happens, my customer tell me, okay, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, sure. Tell me more. Like,
Yeah.
why would you like to do this? Why this, not that? Why would you like to buy in this suburb? And then we actually can uncover that sometimes it's actually something else,
Yeah.
based on that questions, like follow-up questions. And they're like, oh, actually, I thought I want this, but you know what? I actually want that, right? And why we can do it because we're present in that moment, just that, 45 minutes to 1 hour, just focusing on that. Yeah.
And it's so important because I think sometimes, when you're buying a house, you don't often get asked a lot of you don't ask yourself a lot of questions. And I
Exactly.
think one of the biggest things that we fall into a trap of is that we don't sometimes sit back and ask the question, why do I want to buy a house? Because sometimes you might
Exactly.
arrive at the fact that maybe you don't. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you want
Exactly.
to invest in stock or crypto, whatever it is. Like that might not be your journey, but you need to ask those questions. And sometimes all it takes is the right person, like someone like yourself, sitting you down and bringing you out of that. Before we get started, why? What are we doing? How are we doing it? What are your goals? And then they kind of
Exactly.
arrive at the fact of, yeah, maybe I don't want to buy in Berwick.
Exactly. Sometimes, like, especially with of the suburbs. Okay, tell me why that suburb? Because of my friends live there, my family, and this and that.
Mm.
Of course, all valid reasons, right? But then we sometimes, it's maybe the school, or maybe like we could also like there's another suburb still in that school catchment, and I could do that for property reports to see the school catchment. But like maybe it might be a little bit cheaper, but it still ticks a lot of boxes, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Like it's so personal. So let's say someone listening currently banks with someone else, right? Do you help those clients if they wanted to, like if they wanted to work with you, obviously you represent a different bank, they're banking with someone else. If they wanted to work with you, can you still help them?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can help them refinance or switch banks. But yeah, just give me a call.
Oh, okay. So it's not like a
Yeah.
limitation that
No,
if
no,
they
no, not
wanted.
at all. Not at all. I handle all the legal work as well and
Oh,
explain the
cool.
process. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a big relief because I
Yeah.
think that's the hardest part because
Yeah.
there's a lot of intimidation when you want to switch banks or
Of
you want to go
course.
somewhere else and you're like, how does this? Oh, maybe I can't. And a lot of people end up with their bank for like 40 years.
I know, because
Like,
it's a convenience. Sometimes it's a hassle. Oh my God, imagine the paperwork right now.
yeah.
It's actually easier than you think. And I explain the whole process, give you all the right information and the steps, and handle all the legal work for you as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's a big relief for a lot of
Yes.
people to hear.
It's not as hard as it might seem. Yeah.
And I think that's good to know because, yeah, sometimes I think the idea of doing these things is worse than actually doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, I think one of the things I want to switch gears to is, the customer experience and education you give because, like you said, you see a lot of buyers who are nervous at the start, first-time buyers or even experienced buyers. What are the most, common fears or questions that people end up bringing to you that you have to work with?
Usually it's where do I even start?
Yeah.
Or can I afford this? So I would say these are the most common fears.
Oh, they would be, yeah, where do I start?
Yeah. Where do I start? Yeah.
And I guess, like, how do you help them? Is that part of that goal setting and those questions you help them work through is like,
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I like to say is like, look, you don't need to have it all figured out. That's my job, right?
More.
All you need to tell me is like, what do you want? What do you need? What timeline ideally are we working with? And I'll show you the possible options, scenarios, and so you can choose what works best for you. Yeah, that's it. So don't be intimidated. Don't feel like, oh my God, I don't know, like,
Yep.
I haven't done my research, my homework. You don't need that. That's my job.
I think that's a relief, right, to know, because that's why you go to professionals. You don't have to be the
Exactly.
professional.
No, absolutely not. Some of my customers, oh my God, I don't know what loan structure to choose. Like, you don't need to worry about that, right? Just tell me again, what do you need? What do you want? And I'll show you how to get you there. I'll show you different options, explain how it all works, so then you can decide what works best for you.
That's so refreshing. I think sometimes we just need to know someone's got our back. So
Yeah.
just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And can you recall a time where you helped someone, I guess, walk away more confident than when they sat down with you initially? Is there like any moments that stick out to you?
Yeah, I remember like had one first home buyer. He was one of those customers like, oh my God, where do you even start? It's so overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
so much information. I completely get it, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. It's the biggest
yeah.
purchase of your life, right? For like most of us. And then, step by step, like we went through the whole process of starting with his, financials and the loan type, the type of property he wanted to purchase, the suburb, step by step, the government scheme as well. And we went through this whole journey together, and then property reports, to support the decision making. He purchased the property. I think it took us like around 6 months, maybe 6 to 9, maybe, yeah, 7, 8, 9. Something like that. And at the end of it, he was like, you know what? I'm ready to buy my second one.
Oh my God.
When can I buy my investment property?
And you're like,
Yeah,
wow.
I was like, wow, because through the whole process, he learned a lot, because as you said, Jo, it's also about that education. Okay, so this is like, let's say, that's the difference between this loan type and that loan type.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between buying by yourself and with the government scheme, right? So there is a lot of education, and I love doing that. I really do. Yeah. So he felt so confident, and I love that. I absolutely love that.
So that's an amazing story. I think to have someone that is, because often buyers, I think at the end of their journey go, oh, thank God, let me move in, and
Exactly,
I don't want to
thank
look
God,
at
like,
one document,
yeah.
and then you get a letter from the bank, and you're like, I don't actually want to look at it because I'm over it. But in his case, that's a testament to your service, right? Because
Thanks.
you obviously, I have to give you credit because, he must have felt so reassured and so calm with you through the process because you supported him and explained things that he was like ready to go again, which I think is a total not expected outcome, in my opinion.
Yeah. And look, a lot of things have changed, right? Even from the moment I purchased my first property, a lot of things can be done digitally as well. So you don't have to sign like tons of stack of papers. The whole process is so much easier these days as well.
Yeah, that's true. Because even when I bought years ago, it was all paperwork.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was, a lot of paperwork. And even when I was a real estate agent, it was in-person contracts on paper. Every time there was a negotiation, the person would have to cross out the number to an initial, and I'd have to go to the buyer and go, okay, we got an initial.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, it's the same. When I was doing I was like, oh my God, it's like 10 trees, Sometimes depending again on the situation, if we have guarantors involved, different. Yes, but majority can be done digitally these days. Yeah,
I love that. And I guess what's your advice to someone who might feel intimidated to pick up the phone and call yourself or even the bank?
Yeah, just as I said, you don't need to have it all figured out. Just give me a call. Let's start a conversation, and it's my job to figure it out.
I love it. And that brings us to the next segment, which our listeners love. This is Reddit myth.
I love that segment.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. So these are things that our listeners send in to us on a weekly basis where they want us to be across with our guests some of the stories that we hear on Reddit. And basically we play the game with our professionals that come on the show, and we want you to help us debunk some of the myths. So are you ready to play?
Let's go, Jo.
Okay, I love this. So this first Redditor says, I'm not sure whether to go with a broker or the bank. Why figure out what's best for me?
Look, I hear that a lot, right? And that's a very good question. So the way I approach it is like, it's all about the right fit for the right customer, and the right decision or the right choice or best choice depends on your situation. You need to choose what's best for you. With obviously like the mortgage brokers, they can provide you more options, better rate. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes, because there is like different different banks, but it's not just about the rate. Think about how much your time can cost you, right? If you have 3 different loans across 3 different banks, and then you have to spend 2 hours on the with the call center because your credit card is not working. So also that's something to consider. Keep in mind that I can be one shop stop for you with all of the products, and if we build that relationship, right, then I can help you provide guidance along the way. Yeah.
I think that was well answered, to be honest, because it's true. I'm already sold, right? In the sense that I don't want to call my bank. I'm going to talk to you after this. Well done.
Yeah.
And I like this next one because this is probably a common experience, right? I had a bad experience with a bank once, so now I'm scared to go back. How do I make sure that that doesn't happen again?
Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
I think we can apply it to all areas of our life, right? What I would say, why was it a bad experience? What happened? Was it because you had to wait 2 hours in a line? Or maybe the person you connected with, you felt like they didn't really understand you? Or maybe you couldn't purchase a property at that time?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, right? So I'd really love to understand why was it a bad experience and what happened, right? So then I can help with that. But also, let's say it's all like general for now. I think we can also say that I also had a bad experience with a dentist once, and did it stop me from going? No, I just found someone else who was more suitable for my needs.
It's like, and sometimes it's not. I know that we're all representatives of where we work, right? So you're always going to get someone in any industry, every business that doesn't do the right thing or doesn't, represent you how you would like and talk to you in the way that you understand. So it shouldn't put you off from having the discussion again, because then you might get someone like Ula on the call that it totally changes your mind and goes, oh, wow, okay. It's not everyone. I dealt with a bad experience. I had one bad experience. So don't be intimidated. And brokers, this one here is a common one, which we've kind of talked about a little bit, but I'll read it out anyway because you guys submitted it. So thank you for our listeners for sending these in. This one says, brokers shop around, banks only have their own products. Does that mean I'll always get a better deal with a broker?
Look, again, what does a better deal mean for you, right? Is it just like the cheapest, right? Yeah, of course. If that's the case, probably, broker, it not always depends obviously on the circumstances, but high chance of that happening, right? But so I won't be able, probably to match that. But, if you're after that personalized experience, that the convenience of having someone on the call, if things don't go well, accordingly to plan, or you need to change, or your life has changed, or you want to buy another property and someone who already has that relationship with you, or maybe you start a business, right? Okay, let me connect you with my colleague from business banking. If you value that and your time as well, then, I think you would really, really enjoy working with me. Yeah.
I agree. That's exactly why I thought, yep, I value convenience over rate.
Exactly.
Because we're just time poor. I think in this age, it's one thing to get a really good deal on that first loan, but the thing is, you can always refinance.
Exactly.
That can happen anytime, anywhere, with anyone. It's if that's the rate, you're always going to jump around. But for me, and I think a lot of people, like I said, we're all time poor. If I can get some help, constant help, and I'm very happy.
Exactly. And look, there are also other benefits, right? We can talk specifically, sometimes you think, there is a cheaper rate, but then when we compare the benefits, let's say you don't pay fees for credit card, this and that, actually, the discounts that we can provide, it actually might work out better for you. But again, it's all about the right choice for the right customer, right? Everyone is different. Yeah.
Yep. No, I love that. And this last one here says, the bank feels intimidating and full of jargon. I don't even know how to start that conversation. It's common.
It is common. And of course, I just say, look, just give me a call, right? I'm happy to chat. We can just, have a friendly chat over coffee about your goals. What do you want to do? What do you need? And again, it's my job to figure out the loan structure, all this. That's my job, don't be intimidated. And remember, I want, of course, my customers sometimes are scared. And, of course, I completely understand why. It's a huge purchase and a huge commitment, right? But also I'm thinking how exciting, I don't want them to forget, enjoy the journey as well. You're making a huge milestone and it needs to be celebrated as well.
I love that. And it's so true. So positive. It's meant to be positive. So with the right people in your corner, it can be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And those are exactly the sorts of, thank you for playing that game with me. And thank you to our listeners for sending them in. Because, I think a lot of people don't always have the guts to say it out loud when they meet a professional like yourself. And, this is why we do this segment is just to let, you've got questions that you don't want to ask, we'll ask them for you.
Yeah, I love that. Good questions. Good questions.
I appreciate it. And to close this out, I want to finish on a more positive note. What's some advice for buyers who are just starting out? Give one a tip or one, no BS comment to them, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say just speak to someone early, right? Whether if it's your mortgage broker or myself, just start early. It's so good to have time on your side. Yeah.
I love that. Great point. Well, this has been such a valuable conversation. Time has totally flown by.
Yeah, I know.
I've enjoyed today's conversation, honestly. I'm so glad. And, one of the things that for our listeners, if you want to get in touch with Ula, as I've said through the podcast and on every episode, it costs nothing to have a phone call. And I think we've made that very clear. Sometimes you just need a chat and you just need to lay it all out. And someone like Ula can come to your home, your office, whatever's convenient, your favourite coffee shop, like she said, to just have a general chat.
Absolutely. There is no commitment at that stage as well. So guys, don't be afraid.
It's like you're not getting married. It's fine.
Exactly.
It's just a coffee.
Yeah.
So no, thank you Ula once again for being here today. I really appreciate your time and your insights. I'm so excited that I actually got to interview you.
Thanks, Jo. My pleasure. I loved our conversation. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I'm sure we'll have Ula back next time for another episode in future where we can unpack something a bit more specific. So this will be exciting to welcome her back when things change in the market and we'll see what she's up to.
Absolutely.
And if you're listening and you want to reach out, we've got Ula's details in the show notes below so you can give her a call and get in touch and talk about anything that you need to in finance. Start early, like she said. And whether you're weighing up bank versus broker or you just want clarity on where to stand out, reaching out could be the first step in that journey. So make a call and make that decision and see how you go. That's it for today's episode of the No BS Real Estate Podcast. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who's in the market or on the property journey right now. And we'll see you next time. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. That's a wrap for this episode of the No BS Real Estate Podcast, powered by Abodey AI. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more guidance on your home buying journey, you can visit www.abodey.com.au for expert advice, property insights, and the tools you need to find the right home with confidence. If you're already on your journey, you can also download our app. Just search Abodey AI on the App Store or Google Play. Have any questions or want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram at abodey.com.au or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.